Okay, first video. I don't know if this is a good idea, but it certainly can't hurt. So, hey, I'm Gary Hodges. I'm the creator of Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots, and I wrote a comic book. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the very first video. There's probably going to be about a half dozen of these talking about the creation of my very first comic book, DvsM 1975. I figure we should just start with a bunch of disclaimers, mostly about how amateurish this is going to be. I am not a webcam guy. I am not a webcast, vlogger, any of that stuff. I'm old and I'm uncomfortable with technology. And I bought an inexpensive little webcam, which I'm looking at right now, that's better than the one that's built into my Mac, but only marginally. The audio is not what I hoped it would be, like listening to some of it play back. And I'm uncomfortable on camera. So this is going to be awesome. I can't wait. But you know what? It's all good. And now we're in it together. So, what's the worst that could happen? Actually, a lot. A lot of bad things could happen. So as I said, these videos are going to be mostly about the writing and drawing and creation and everything top to bottom of my first comic book. But assuming that you don't know anything about me or my work, which is very likely unless you're friends and family, and even if you're friends and family, I thought I would give just a very, very quick introduction to me and Dinosaurs versus Marsbots and get you up to speed, and then the rest of the videos will all be comic related. Though there will be a little bit of comic thing in this at the very end. That reminds me of a new disclaimer, if you caught it at the end of that last thing. I have two cats, Spooky and Natty. And Spooky, anytime she hears me talking at home, whether it's to somebody else or somebody on the phone or talking to the webcam, she thinks I'm talking to her. And so she struts in and like, wah, 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 what's going on? If I have to stop it every time she does that, I'm never going to get this thing done. So you're going to hear some meowing in the background. The disclaimers just keep on coming. So a little bit about me. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a working illustrator. I'm a litigation graphics specialist. That's someone who creates visual aids for use in court to assist in testimony. So that could be anything. It could be anatomical drawings, it could be crime scene diagrams, it could be 3D models. Anything visual that someone might show a jury to aid in testimony, to enhance the jury's understanding of testimony, could be something that I would be doing. It's an interesting job. It's always different, and it's not especially creative. Thus, why I have my secret separate life of Dinosaurs versus Marsbots. Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots describes the top secret war that took place in the recent unspecified past between invading Martians and dinosaurs that were recreated by a government's top secret supercomputer. Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots was a thing that I came up with a few years ago. A friend of mine, Julia, whose picture I'm going to try and insert right over here, maybe? Or not, if I decide I don't want to figure that out in Premiere. In any case, Julia came to me a few years ago. She was putting together the very first DinoCon in Phoenix, Arizona, where I live. It's a dinosaur-themed pop culture convention. And she knew I was an illustrator, and she asked me if I wanted to do merch, have like a merch table to sell prints or something. I was reluctant because it sounded like a lot of work. I decided to pitch something to her that I thought she would probably turn down. And then I was out clean. Like, she asked and I suggested something and she said no, and I get points for suggesting something and I also don't have to work. So I said, I don't know, I'll do it if I can just draw pictures of dinosaurs eating robots. And she, expecting her to say like, yeah, I think we'll be good, actually, never mind. Instead, she was like, oh yeah, no, do that. The original thing I was selling at DinoCon was I did drawings of various dinosaurs fighting Martians. And I would write like a little bit of story text with it. And I was printing them out just on single sheets, black and white, as like coloring pages for kids because we knew DinoCon was going to skew young. So I had these pages, just loose and crayons at my table, and I think I was selling them for like $1 each or something. As we got closer to DinoCon, I thought, well, maybe I'll color some of these myself and do prints as well. So I'll have prints and the coloring pages, and that's what was for sale at the very first DinoCon. It actually went well. Like, I went in there fully expecting to not sell anything, or I'd make $17 or something. But actually, I remember it was like, oh, this actually, people might be into this. And it emboldened me to sign up for the next Dinocon and also for, I think, the following year's Phoenix Comic Con. I drew 6 more prints. I compiled the 12 prints then I had into a coloring and activity book. That went well at DinoCon. The second DinoCon went well at the first Phoenix Comic Con I went to. So then I did 6 more prints, had the activity book, had mini prints, I had buttons at one point, I had stickers at one point, I have an art of book that's basically all the prints in color, wide variety of things. It was never a huge moneymaker. It was never like a crazy thing where I was thinking about quitting my job. It was just a fun thing to do on the side, and it let me do something creative. But even though it always went well, I always had the same experience at all these appearances, and more as time went on. I would be there at wherever, whatever show or convention or whatever I was, pop up, and multiple times a day, different people would come by and they would look at everything I had and they'd be like, this is cool, this is awesome. So do you have a comic? And I would say, no, I've thought about it, but I haven't done a comic yet. And they'd say like, oh, okay, well, we'll be back when you have a comic. And they would just leave. And at first it was kind of, at first I didn't really think about it. And after a while I thought it was sort of funny. And by the end, it made me reluctant to want to do shows anymore because I felt like I needed a comic. Like, people wanted a comic, and that maybe I'd gone about as far as I was going to go with prints and coloring books. And that was reinforced talking to what I refer to as sort of con friends, like other artists at Phoenix Comic Con that I was friendly with, that I would talk to. We would look at each other's work, and on a couple occasions they would say, like, what would really make people buy into what you've got going here is a story. People want a story. They want a comic book or something. They want, or whether it's a web comic or a physical comic or something, but they want story. And once they're into the story and they're invested, then all this other stuff, prints and coloring books and buttons on it, then they're really going to be excited about that. I always thought about that, but I just didn't really do it because comic books are a lot of work. If you're out there and you've ever tried to do your own comic book, you know what I'm talking about. I had never done a comic before, and I knew, like, that sounds like a lot of work. As hard as I thought it would be, it was even harder. There's so many things I didn't even think of. I mean, just to quickly go through it, and this is sort of a sneak preview of videos to come. I mean, first you got to come up with a story. Like, what's your story going to be? Then you got to, there's an idea for a story, but then there's actually writing it. There's a difference between saying, like, maybe it'd be sort of about this, and then actually writing a script. So you got to write a script. Do you know how to write a script? We better learn how to write a script. Then you got to start storyboarding it to figure out what are the panels, how does your script turn into panels? And then once you have panels, what is your layout going to look like? How many panels per page? Which panels are big and small? And then you got to think about things like page turns and what style, what do I want it to look like? Are there other comics that look kind of like it to get me in the ballpark just for inspiration, or is it going to be sort of its own thing? Not just basic questions like what kind of, is it going to be very stylized or not? Is it going to be color or not? But really getting into like the weeds of your visual aesthetic. Do you even have a visual aesthetic? You've never done a comic before. You're kind of discovering your look as you're doing this thing for the first time. It's madness. Madness! For the past year, I've been working very hard and very privately. I've shared bits and pieces of my work with people, but very little. Most people in my life just know that, I don't know, that Gary is working on a comic or something. Like that's probably like, and it's they find out about it or they hear about it when I'm dodging plans. And because I'm precious and sort of private about, that sounded funny. I'm so precious. No, because I'm a little precious about my process and private about my process, I wasn't sharing a lot of what I was doing. Some people would see bits and pieces, but generally I was working in isolation. But it's been a great experience, and I wanted to be able to share it now that it's done. Not just the comic, but the whole process, this whole experience of making the comic. So these videos, I hope, will sort of be for everyone. They'll be for people who've been wondering what I've been up to. They're going to be for people who have wanted to do a comic and they're curious what goes into it. They'll be for people who have done comics and are interested in how a different person solves the same problems. And then if, as a very secondary effect, it gets you a little interested in the comic or the coloring books or the prints or any other thing, well, that's even better. Starting the next video, we're going to get into just how a comic goes from nothing to existing. This is just the introduction. But I wanted to give people who have followed a little bit and already know about me and already know about Dinosaurs versus Marsbots and would like maybe some comic news, I wanted to give them something. So this is where I'm going to reveal the cover for my new comic, DvsM 1975. Again, with the magic of Premiere. Maybe. Actually, that one I'll have to get in. I can't cop out. The other things might not happen, but the cover of the comic I've got to put in there. Now, one more thing with each of these videos. At the very end, I'm going to try and do a little bit of Q&A. If you're a friend of mine on Facebook or you're in the Kid Millionaire group on Facebook with me, I shared a SurveyMonkey link where you could submit questions for me about anything, about comics, making a comic, me, Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, whatever. I've already gotten a ton of good questions, which I won't be answering all today because some of them are going to be great for future videos I know I'm going to do. So I'm going to spread them out. So today the questions are going to be related to me in general, Dinosaurs versus Marsbots in general, like broad questions. If you want to submit some, I'll have a link in the description. Or if you know me in real life, you can email me or message me or text me or whatever. But I'm always looking for more questions. Questions are fun. This person asks, why aliens and dinosaurs, Martians and dinosaurs, by the way, as opposed to, I don't know, aliens and mobsters or gladiators or cowboys? Dinosaurs versus Marsbots really originated as an inside joke between me and my brother from when we were kids. It was our shorthand for something just dumb, like something like a kid would come up with, a dumb idea for a movie. And it wasn't Dinosaurs versus Marsbots. It was, for us, it was Dinosaurs versus Robots or Dinosaurs versus Wobots, like how a kid would say it. If the Michael Bay Transformers movies had come out when my brother and I were kids, we would have been like, oh my God, that's such Dinosaurs versus Robots stuff. That's where that came from. What informed your color choices for the dinosaurs? So clearly that's referring to the prints, which I will, again, with the magic of Premiere, maybe, show you some examples. It's a good question. It depends. It's a balance of my armchair paleontological ideas about what color something would probably be, and then aesthetic concerns. So for the first part, for example, like the Deinonychus, which is the velociraptor-like creature I have in the prints and the activity book. Through reading about it and thinking about it, again, my sort of armchair analysis, I imagined that raptors probably were tree-dwelling at least part of the time. It looks like a lot of raptors were not capable of flight, but they did have feathers. So I imagine that their feathers were probably some sort of camouflage, that they were, you know, green, and that their bodies were probably also green or brown or something, so they could blend in with the trees a little bit. That was my logic for like, what color am I going to do the Deinonychus? I'll do it. I'll make it look like something that would sort of disappear into trees. I did that with a lot of the dinosaurs. I looked at like what plausibly would they be colored like. But then at some point, just as a designer, and thinking about the fact that you're selling prints that people might want to hang up in their room, you can't have, of your 18 prints, you know, 7 green dinosaurs and then 4 gray ones. Like, you need to mix it up. Like, there might be someone who wants a blue dinosaur or an orange one or whatever. So in cases where I didn't have a strong feeling about what color made sense for this dinosaur, I would say like, well, what have I not done yet? I haven't done this color scheme. I haven't done this combination. And then I would go with that. I would pin tons of pictures of like cool looking lizards and birds and anything that would kind of give me a sense of like, oh, that might be a neat combination. And as I went further with the prints, you would see, if you see them like from the first that I did to the last, I got more and more ambitious with coloration and also mixed coloration, like lots of different colors in a individual. Good question. Okay, last question in the video. Does DvsM have its own theme song yet? If not, when, and what might it sound like? It does not have its own theme song. There are no plans for it to have a theme song, but I like this question. I like it a lot. And I'm thinking, just because of this question, I think it'll be fun if every single video we go out to some tune that I think would fit perfectly on a Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots soundtrack. So, through the magic of Premiere, maybe it's starting to play right now.